Ukraine's primary or Ghost Special Operations Unit is made up of some of the most effective, efficient fighters in the world. They've carried out countless successful strikes throughout the war so far, hitting the headlines on numerous occasions after wiping out Russian radars, aircraft, and other assets with their high-precision tactical drones. Now, this unstoppable force has carried out another brutal strike, shattering Russia's shield over Crimea and leaving large parts of the territory utterly exposed to additional attacks. On October 26, the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, otherwise known as the GUR, shared news of the Ghost's latest strike, which targeted 3 different Russian radar systems positioned on the Crimean Peninsula. The GUR's Telegram post detailed the attack and its impact. Ghosts of the GUR are on the hunt. 3 radars and a landing craft of Muscovites were hit in Crimea. Skillfully dodging the missiles of the enemy air defense, the drones of the GUR Special Unit of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine Ghosts continue to destroy the valuable radar equipment of the occupiers on the Crimean Peninsula. This time, the following came under the attack of the Scouts. Radar 96L6 of the S400 Triumph anti-aircraft missile system. Radar P-18 Terek, Radar 55ZH6U Nyebo-U, Landing Craft BK-16. As it often does, the GUR also uploaded a video of the aerial assault. Captured from the drone's point of view, the footage shows each drone traveling at high speeds and even evading air defense missiles on several occasions, before honing in and raining down destruction on their intended targets. The GUR report doesn't go into further detail about whether the 4 targets were destroyed entirely or just simply damaged, but either way, this is a big success. Even if the radars are only damage, it will take time, money and resources before they're fully operational again. And these are not rudimentary radar systems, they rank among some of Russia's best technologies. The 96L6 radar, for example, is an integral piece of Russia's S400 air defense system, which is vital for withstanding and repelling Ukrainian missiles. Designed for all altitude detection, this radar is capable of identifying and tracking a wide range of aerial threats, including ballistic missiles traveling at supersonic speeds. It boasts a reported detection range of up to around 187 miles, as well as 360-degree coverage and the ability to track up to 100 targets all at once. Some reports have even called this radar the perfect countermeasure for Ukraine's US-supplied high-mobility artillery rocket system, HIMARS. And while the exact cost of the radar itself isn't known, a typical S400 system is worth around $500 million. Without its radar, the system's effectiveness is severely degraded, leaving the Russians with a $500 million heap of metal that has far less chance of identifying or intercepting any incoming enemy targets. The Nyebo-U is one of the more sophisticated radars in Russia's arsenal. Operating at very high frequencies, it's designed to provide long-range detection of aerial targets traveling at various speeds and altitudes. In short, it can paint a very clear and comprehensive picture of an incoming aerial threat from hundreds of miles away, with a maximum effective range of 373 miles. Each system is said to be worth around $100 million, but the Nyebo-U is arguably invaluable from Russia's perspective when it comes to spotting any Ukrainian missiles or drone swarms that might be headed their way, giving them ample early warning and time to prepare their defenses. The P-18 Terek radar, meanwhile, is a simpler and older system, dating all the way back to the days of the Soviet Union. It was the successor of the earlier P-12 radar system and entered service in 1970. While it isn't as valuable or high-end as the others, it's still a relatively reliable and useful early warning system for Russia, with a range of 155 miles. Plus, with so many of its more modern and expensive radars taken out in similar attacks in the past, Russia needs as many of these older systems as it can get. Because radars are, in effect, shields. While they don't have any offensive capacities of their own, they're absolutely fundamental from a defensive standpoint. They look out across vast swathes of land, constantly scanning their surroundings in every direction, gathering the necessary intelligence for the more offensive elements of the army's arsenal, like air defense systems and interceptor missiles, to eliminate incoming threats with ease. Without radars, air defenses are valueless, and that's one of the key reasons why Ukraine's Ghost and other drone operator teams have made Russian radars some of the top priority targets in recent times. Indeed, only a couple of days before this impressive attack, the GUR also reported about another aerial assault on Russian radars, which was carried out on the night of October 23 and into the early hours of October 24. This operation involved targets dotted across 3 occupied territories, Zaporizhzhia, Kherson and Crimea once again. As always, the GUR provided a detailed report of exactly what happened and which assets were hit on its official Telegram channel. 2 enemy radar stations, Nyebo and Buk-M3, were destroyed. Exclusive video from GUR Special Forces. Another fat booty. On October 23 and 24, 2025, the masters of the Department of Active Operations of the GUR of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine discovered and destroyed 3 expensive air defense systems of the Russian occupation army. Self-propelled firing system from the Buk-M3 air defense system. 2 1L119 Nyebo SVU radars. Muscovites' air defense systems were eliminated in the temporarily occupied territories of Zaporizhzhia, Kherson regions and the Autonomous Republic of Crimea. Now, part of the same Nyebo family of radars as the Nyebo-U and the Nyebo-M, the Nyebo SVU was introduced in 2001. It operates at very high frequencies, boasting an effective range of hundreds of miles and the ability to locate enemy aircraft and other flying objects with only a minimal margin of error. It can be paired with S300 and S400 air defense missile systems, providing the necessary intelligence for effective and accurate target identification and acquisition. It's worth noting, however, that the Ukrainian defense news agency, Militani, reported that the radars in question were actually Nyebo SV units rather than Nyebo SVUs. The Nyebo SV is a 3-coordinate radar system that was introduced to Russian air defense units in 2016. It's capable of detecting and identifying both aerodynamic and ballistic objects, and boasts a maximum operating distance of up to 310 miles and the ability to detect threats at altitudes up to 40 miles. Either way, whether these were Nyebo SVU or Nyebo SV radars, both are valuable and vital when it comes to providing early warning information and enabling Russia to counteract and intercept Ukrainian drones, missiles and more. They're both seen as high priority, high value targets, and taking out 2 radars is a good day for Ukraine no matter what. Once again, the GUR also attached video evidence of the attack, captured from the drones' viewpoint as they soared towards their targets, which also included a Buk-M3 medium-range surface-to-air missile system launcher. The Buk-M3 is the latest version of a long-running series of air defense systems, and while earlier Buk models date back to the Soviet days, the M3 is much more modern, equipped with advanced electronic components and boasting some impressive capabilities. It's able to take out targets traveling at peak speeds of 3,000 meters a second, or 6,700 miles per hour, which is close to 9 times the speed of sound. It also has decent range and high levels of accuracy and reliability, taking out its targets more often than not. Plus, it's highly mobile and capable of targeting not just aerial threats, but those on the ground and sea as well. Each system is said to be worth around $45 million, and while this attack may have only damaged the system rather than destroying it entirely, it still left the Kremlin weaker and with another big repair bill to pay. Only a few days earlier, Ukraine was celebrating another successful strike on a Russian radar system also located in Crimea. On October 20, the GUR reported the destruction of a Russian Valdai radar, which had been stationed at the Zankoy airfield in the northern part of the Crimean Peninsula. According to the intelligence agency's report, a specialist unit from the Department of Active Operations used drones to locate and strike the Russian installation, which had been cleverly camouflaged by the enemy. The radar in question is another that's relatively modern and expensive, said to be worth around $5 million per unit. It uses a 3-coordinate X-band radar, along with a UAV control channel direction finding system and optoelectronic tracking modules to find and track its targets, being specially designed to detect drones. Clearly in this case, its detection capacities weren't enough to stop Ukraine's aerial assault, but the Valdai radar is said to be one of the most advanced air defense and electronic warfare elements at Russia's disposal today. Losing a piece of equipment like that isn't just a matter of money, it's also a question of pride and confidence, as Russian commanders likely would not have expected such a high-end piece of equipment to be blown to bits by some relatively cheap and simple enemy drones. The effects of these attacks are all adding up, one by one, and while the ghosts aren't always responsible for all of them, they often play a role in the most damaging and decisive strikes. In late September, for example, Ukraine's GUR military intelligence agency shared video footage and a detailed report of a successful ghost strike deep into occupied Crimea. The target on this occasion was the Kherson airbase, just outside the city of Sevastopol, which is the largest city of the Crimean region. These drones, piloted by ghost operators, took out 4 pieces of Russian equipment, 2 transport planes and 2 radar stations. 2 enemy An-26 aircraft and coastal radars, another prey for the GUR Ghost in Crimea. Masters of the special unit of the GUR of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine Ghosts continue to eliminate enemy high-value targets in the territory of temporarily occupied Crimea. During the raid on the peninsula, Ukrainian military intelligence special forces burned 2 Russian invaders' An-26 transport aircraft and also hit the enemy surface radar station and coastal radar MR-10M1 MIS-M1. The losses of the Russian occupation army in Crimea caused by the GUR fighters were recorded in the summary of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine for September 24, 2025. The An-26 aircraft were multi-role transport planes, most often used for carrying cargo, personnel, or evacuating wounded troops from the battlefield. According to reports, both of the planes targeted in the attack exploded into huge fireballs, which, according to analysts, suggests that they were both fueled up and therefore most likely being actively used by the Russians. But arguably, the more important targets were the 2 radars, which, like all the others that Ukraine has systematically targeted and taken out, helped to provide Russian troops stationed in Crimea with all-important intelligence about the surrounding skies and seas and any incoming Ukrainian drones, missiles, or other weapons. Thanks to the ghosts, those radars are no more. And thanks to other drone operators in Ukraine's ranks, the same applies to numerous other radars all over the occupied territories, but especially in Crimea. On September 30, yet another radar in this region was wiped off the map. Ukraine Special Operations Forces Command published a Facebook post detailing exactly what occurred. SSO hit the radar station of the S400 Triumph air defense system on the Crimean Peninsula. On the night of September 30, units of the Special Operations Forces hit the radar station of the Russian S400 Triumph anti-aircraft missile system. Symbolically, the enemy's expensive air defense system, aimed in particular at UAVs, was neutralized by SSO strike drones. The radar station is the eyes of the S400 Triumph complex. Without an element of observation and guidance, the entire system loses its combat capability. SSO units continued to inflict significant damage on the enemy, accelerating his inability to conduct further combat operations. As the post notes, this was both a valuable victory and a symbolic strike, as Ukraine was once more able to use drones to take out a system that was designed to stop them, and all of these attacks are parts of a singular campaign. A campaign focused on dismantling Russia's air defense infrastructure across Ukraine's occupied territories, like Crimea. Every time Kyiv takes out a radar or missile launch system, it smashes Russia's shields and dents its broader defenses. It makes it harder for the Kremlin to protect the territory it's taken, while opening up pathways or corridors for further attacks. That's why Ukraine has so consistently focused on the likes of Nyebo radars and S400 air defense systems. It's a remarkably effective tactic that creates more and more positive opportunities for Ukraine moving forward, while also leaving Russia with an ever-increasing amount of problems to solve. First, as mentioned earlier, these radars and air defense systems aren't exactly cheap. Some are worth tens of millions of dollars or even more, and while some can eventually be repaired, others are destroyed entirely when Ukraine's explosive drones collide with their critical core components. That leaves Russia with hundreds of millions of dollars of expensive hardware to repair or replace. And right now, the Kremlin is dealing with some major economic difficulties. The value of the ruble is volatile, inflation remains high, and the Kremlin is pouring an astonishing amount of its federal budget into the military. The country is also caught in the grips of an increasingly dramatic fuel crisis, with gas shortages reported in numerous regions, thanks once more to Ukraine's smart and strategic drone attacks on fuel infrastructure. At such a critical moment of the war, when gains along the front lines are slim and domestic infrastructure is under siege, Russia simply can't afford to suffer these kinds of expensive equipment losses on top of everything else. They don't have a few spare $1 billion lying around to cover the costs of radar repairs or expensive replacements. The second big issue here is that every time Ukraine takes out a Russian radar or air defense system, it undermines confidence in that technology. On the face of it, radars often priced in the tens of millions, some around $100 million, with full air defense systems costing more, are supposed to be able to see for hundreds of miles in every direction, should not be getting damaged and destroyed by simple FPV drones that are worth far less. They should be able to spot the drones coming, and air defenses should activate to bring them down with plenty of time to spare before they even get close. This is something Ukraine demonstrates constantly, where Russia routinely deploys massive swarms of drones towards towns and cities all over the country. But Kyiv's impressive layered air defense complex spots them and takes the majority out before they have the opportunity to deal any damage. Russian air defenses appear far less organized than those of their opponent, since so many of them have been systematically wiped off the map through these perfectly planned and carefully coordinated attacks. This in turn leaves Russia's commanders, soldiers, and even the general public wondering what's going on, as despite boasting some of the best radar technology and air defense systems in the world, the Kremlin appears utterly incompetent when it comes to using those tools effectively to defend itself. The third and perhaps most significant problem these attacks pose to the Kremlin is the fact that every time a radar is destroyed, the area it was supposed to be guarding gets weaker. Suddenly, Russia has one less set of eyes scanning the horizon and looking out for enemy threats, and that makes the situation much more troubling for those on the ground, who are now much more vulnerable to follow-up drone swarms or missile strikes. Bit by bit, Ukraine is blinding its enemy and shattering its shields all across Crimea, and with fewer and fewer defenses left standing, Russia's grip on the region is well and truly weakening. As one former Ukrainian officer from Crimea stated in a Radio Free Europe Radio Liberty report from earlier this year, a real corridor now exists for Ukrainian drones and missiles. Large portions of the region now appear to reduce air defense coverage, with no eyes in the skies or on the ground, and numerous targets at risk of total annihilation. All Ukraine has to do is launch more drones or even missiles like its long Neptunes along those corridors and into those areas that are no longer protected by the power of radar. Unable to see the threats coming with no early warning, no alarms, and no time to take protective measures, Russia will be utterly unable to defend itself and countless additional assets will be lost. What's more, units like the Ghosts are taking out radars and air defenses at such a rapid rate, even if Russia dedicated more manpower and money to repairing and replacing them, they still wouldn't be able to counterattack every attack and cover all of Crimea with the necessary defensive systems to protect it. As a result, the region is weaker than it's ever been, and recapturing Crimea has always been one of Ukraine's long-term goals. Perhaps that goal is drawing closer, because if the Kremlin's forces run out of radars and defensive options in this region, they'll be left with almost no other choice but to order a rapid retreat, paving the way for Kyiv's troops to roll in and retake control. Now, learn more about Russia's flailing attempts to defend Crimea in this video, which looks at how Russian forces somehow managed to shoot down one of their own fighter jets while trying to fend off Ukrainian drones. Or for a more of a big picture look at how the war is going and how Ukraine may be poised to take back every single square inch of lost land, check out this video. And finally, make sure to subscribe to our trusted channel too, so you can stay informed, up to date, and fully aware what's really happening in the Russia-Ukraine war and other important conflicts worldwide.